Hello friends, today we are going to discuss state and society in ancient India and a comparison between Manu and Kautilya. As we all know, there are three great philosophers lived in ancient India who wrote many books on political treatise. These books were very famous for containing various philosophical ideas on political system. Manu, Kautilya and Gautama Buddha. These are the three important ancient philosophers of India who have brought name and fame with their political ideas throughout the world. Earlier, people used to believe that political thought is originated in the Western society, and Greeks were considered as the native land for the origination of political ideas and political philosophy. Nullifying this belief, some of the Indian political scientists unearthed the treatises written by ancient Indian political philosophers to show the world that much before the Greeks, Indians have contributed a lot in terms of philosophical ideas and political system to the treasure of knowledge. So this is how, in ancient India, two great philosophers, Manu and Kautilya, they have written books on political system in which they have expressed many a political idea on the political stability and survival of the system, state aggrandisement, and various other aspects. So today we are going to discuss a comparison between the philosophical ideas of Manu and Kautilya of ancient India on issues of state and society. So, ancient Indian political thought discussed various issues relating to state and society. These issues related to the Varna Dharma, Dharma, Danda, Dandaniti, Rajadharma, functions of state, origin of state, Saptanga theory, interstate relations, spying system, mandala theory. So these are various theories that are discussed in ancient Indian political thought. So Indian political thought is in fact a treasure of knowledge on political ideas and political philosophical doctrines. So ancient Indian political thought discussed various relations, various issues relating to state and society. And some of the political scientists of modern period believe that the ancient political ideas are state-centric and society-centric. So they have discussed more ideas on state, such as the origin of state, Saptanga theory, functions of state, the expansion of state, extension of state, and various other things. And they have also equally discussed the ideas in society as well. These issues relating to the Varna system, the caste system, the criminal administration in the society, and various other aspects. So ancient Indian political thought discussed various issues relating to state and society. Among the political philosophers of ancient India, Manu, Kautilya, and Gautama Buddha were ancient Indian philosophers. These are the prominent philosophers of Indian society. Manu wrote Manusmriti. Kautilya wrote Arthashastra. Gautama Buddha by himself has not written any books, but all his teachings and discourses are compiled as Tripeetakas, Vinaya Pitaka, Sutta Pitaka, and Abhidhamma Pitaka. So this is how Manu, Kautilya, and Gautama Buddha were the ancient philosophers, ancient Indian philosophers, who wrote many intellectual treatises on political system, which have exposed the system, political system in ancient India, and also they gave an exposure to various types of statecraft in modern period. That's why Manu, Kautilya, and Gautama Buddha are the ancient Indian philosophers. These philosophers are more of political philosophers than social and religious philosophers. and various sources of ancient Indian philosophy. We have so many sources, we can draw so many ideas from ancient Indian philosophy. About ancient Indian philosophy, we can get ideas from Vedas, Upanishads, Brahmanas, epics, and the Manusmriti written by Manu, and Arthashastra written by Kautilya, and Buddha's Tripeetakas. These are various sources. In fact, ancient Indian political thought has rich sources through which the political ideas can be known. So these sources can be Vedas, Upanishads, Brahmanas, epics, Manusmriti of Manu, Arthashastra of Kautilya, and Gautama Buddha's Tripeetakas. So this is how we get different sources on ancient Indian philosophy, and various sources. These books numbers in hundreds of books. They deal about the society, the polity, the political system, the functions of king, and the elements of the state, and various other things. So this is how the political ideas of ancient India can be drawn from various sources, which include Vedas, Upanishads, Brahmanas, epics, Manusmriti of Manu, Arthashastra of Kautilya, and Gautama Buddha's Tripeetakas. Ancient Indian political thought, on the whole, emphasized on Dharma and Danda along with Rajadharma. All the philosophies of ancient India centered around the concept of Dharma. Dharma means a rightful duty or a duty with justice is called as Dharma. A justiciable duty is called as Dharma. This Dharma is a dynamic concept which differs from one person to another person, which differs from one community to another community, which differs from one age group to another age group, which differs from the king to the rulers, which differ from one era to another era. So this is how Dharma is a very complex concept that can be understood and contextualized only with an individual. So this is how it emphasized on Dharma, and it also emphasized on Danda. Danda means punishment. Punishment also has a guiding force called Danda Niti. So according to Danda Niti only, Danda is to be awarded. So Dharma, Danda, and Danda Niti are considered as the three important elements of ancient India. And this Dharma also discussed about the Rajadharma, the duties of the king, and duties of the state also. So Dharma includes various forms of duties with justice, and which also include the Rajadharma. Rajadharma means the duties of a king. And along with Dharma, ancient Indian political thought also dealt with Danda and Dandaniti. So Dharma, Danda, and Dandaniti are considered to be the three noble political ideas of ancient Indian philosophy. And Manu and Kautilya discussed various aspects of statecraft. These two philosophers have written books on statecraft. In their books, they have discussed about the formation of the kingdom, the elements of the kingdom or state, and functions of state, various types of administration like criminal justice administration, local self-government administration, international relations or interstate relations, revenue administration, and various other aspects. So these aspects are related to statecraft. In fact, the books written by Manu and Kautilya are considered as the manuals for administrators. So they give vivid details about the taxation system. They also give details about the appointment of ministers and the qualifications required for a person to be appointed as a minister, and the spying system and various other aspects of stability of the state. So Manu and Kautilya discussed various aspects of state system. This is an important aspect. And Manu and Kautilya supported the chatur system and made it mandatory for the king. to reinforce the caste system in Indian society. As we all know, Indian society is structured on caste lines, particularly the Varna system is there, the chatur Varna system, the Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra Varnas. These are the fourfold division of society on functional basis, and which again are divided into castes and subcastes. There are thousands of castes and thousands of subcastes in Indian society. So these castes and subcastes are divided and subdivided on the basis of Chaturvarna system. So Manu and Kautilya surprisingly supported the social divisions in the society, and they supported the Chaturvarna system, and they have also made it mandatory for the king to reinforce the caste system, to support the caste system, and to prevent the corruption in the practice of Chaturvarna system. So this is how they have held a wide belief on caste system, Chaturvarna system, and they made it mandatory for the king to support the Chaturvarna system, through which they have also supported the caste system and subcaste system. So Manu and Kautilya supported the Chaturvarna system and made it mandatory for the king to reinforce the caste system. And ancient political thought also suggested measures for the stability of the state. In fact, the very aim of the state is to give stability to the system, and it should also see to it that law and order problem cannot be cropped up, and there should be control on anti-socials and anti-nationals in the society. And the king is supposed to provide progressive administration to the people, which includes political stability. So ancient political thought suggested various measures for the stability of the state. So for the stability of the state, a king is supposed to perform police functions, welfare functions, religious functions, and various other functions. So political thought centered around the stability of the state. So they gave more ideas and philosophical suggestions on the political stability of the state in their treatises. Manu wrote Manusmriti and Kautilya wrote Arthasasthra. So these are the two important academic volumes in which we can find various measures for stability of the state in ancient Indian society. Now let us discuss about the lesson plan. In fact, our lesson is about comparison between Manu and Kautilya. State and society, a comparison between Manu and Kautilya is the topic that we are discussing. So we have a concrete lesson plan. We go by the lesson plan. The first one is ancient Indian political thought and its characteristics, followed by Manu and Kautilya in ancient thought and their significance. What is the significance of Manu and Manusmriti or Manudharma Samhita in the ancient political thought, and also the importance and significance of Kautilya's Arthashastra in the ancient Indian political thought. So the place of Manu and Kautilya in ancient Indian political thought, besides Buddha. So actually these two philosophers were preceded by Buddha. So Manu and Kautilya in ancient thought and their significance is widely described here in this lesson. And after that, we'll be discussing about the similarities between the philosophical ideas of Manu and Kautilya. These are the two philosophers who have created their academic works and philosophical works based on the social realities. So there are various similarities, the philosophical ideas. For example, they have expressed the same kind of ideas on the origin of state, the functions of state, the taxation structure, and state aggrandisement or extension of state, and various other issues. That's how there's a lot of similarity between philosophical ideas of Manu and Kautilya. In spite of having these similarities, we should not jump into conclusion that they are one and the same. But they also have contrasts. They have also differences of opinion on various issues. There is a contrast in thought patterns in Manu and Kautilya. For example, in the state of nature, before the formation of state. How the state was formed. According to Kautilya, it was formed on the basis of social contract, whereas Manu believed that it is formed on the basis of divine origin. So this is how there's a great deal of difference between Manu and Kautilya in various matters relating to the political system. So we'll be also discussing about the contrasts in thought patterns between Manu and Kautilya in this lesson. Later we'll make a critical evaluation of the lesson. So our lesson contains these 5 items. First, we'll be discussing about the ancient Indian political thought and its characteristics. After that, we'll be discussing Manu and Kautilya and their significance in the ancient Indian political thought. After that, we'll also be discussing about Manu and Kautilya and what are the similarities in their philosophical ideas. And after that, we'll also be discussing about the contrasts or differences or dissimilarities in the philosophical ideas of Manu and Kautilya. And we'll also make a critical evaluation of both the philosophers and their contribution to the political theory and political philosophy in the end. So this is how our lesson goes. The first point that we are going to discuss is what are the political characteristics, what are the characteristics of ancient Indian political thought. So as I have already mentioned you in the beginning, ancient Indian political thought discussed various ideas which include Dharma, Rajadharma, Danda, Dandaniti, Saptanga theory, statecraft, and they have also discussed about monarchy and republic and law obedience of the people. So these are various issues that are discussed in ancient Indian political thought. First of all, it discussed about Dharma. As I've told you in the beginning, Dharma is a very dynamic concept. It differs from one person to another person, one age group of people to other age group of people, one community to other community, male to female, ruler to the ruled, one age to the other age. So this is how Dharma differs from person to person, from age to age, from gender to gender, from ruler to the ruled. Likewise, it's a very complex idea. In fact, the very idea of Dharma indicates a rightful duty or duty according to law, duty according to justice. Justifiable duty is called as Dharma. So Dharma has so many aspects. We have the Varna Dharma, Kula Dharma, Grahastha Dharma, Vanaprastha Dharma, Yuvajana Dharma, Vritti Dharma, Raja Dharma, Yoga Dharma, Purusha Dharma, Grahastha Dharma, Stri Dharma. So likewise, Dharma is a very complex idea which differs from one person to another person. So in fact, the ancient Indian political thought has contributed the very concept of Dharma to the political theory as such. So Dharma is a very complex political idea that was discussed very widely in the ancient Indian texts, may it be Manusmriti of Manu or Kautilya's Arthashastra. Even Gautama Buddha discussed about Dhamma. He has called it as Dhamma. So Dharma is one important concept. Secondly, Rajadharma. Rajadharma means there are 2 aspects here. One is the duties of the king, Rajadharma, and the duties of the state, Rajadharma. Rajadharma and Rajadharma. So duties of the state and duties of the king may differ sometimes and may be in unison sometimes. So the Rajadharma basically differs with the Rajadharma. And Rajadharma particularly gives the duties of the king. What are the day-to-day duties of the king? And Rajadharma indicates what are the broad, important duties of the state. So Rajadharma and Rajadharma are the 2 important aspects that are very widely discussed in ancient Indian political thought. And likewise, ancient Indian political thought also discussed various ideas that include Danda. Danda means punishment. Punishment in every society, human behavior should be regulated, and in the process of regulation of human behavior, the anti-social element should be taught a lesson through the system of punishments. So that system of punishments is called as Dharma, Danda. So Danda is nothing but using of force, a threat of use of force, or making an attempt to the use of force is called Danda. Danda is used on the anti-social elements and anti-national elements, and also law disobedient citizens who disobey the law, violators of the law, and offenders of the society. So on these people, Danda is used. So ancient political thought vividly discussed about the concept of Danda, and it also gave certain guidelines for the use of Danda. So those guidelines are called as Danda Niti. So Danda and Danda Niti are two intertwined with each other. Without Danda Niti, Danda cannot be there. And without Danda, Danda Niti cannot be there. So Danda requires Danda Niti requires Danda. So these two are intertwined ideas which are given importance and significance in ancient Indian political thought. After that, ancient Indian thought discussed about the Saptanga theory, the elements of state. There are 7 elements according to the ancient Indian political thought. Here we should make a contrast between Western political thought and Indian political thought. Whereas the Western political thought emphasized on 5 important elements like population, territory, government, sovereignty, and international recognition as the 5 important elements of state. Indian philosophy discussed 7 elements to the state, in which the king or the Swami and Janapada are people with the territory, Durga or fort, or then Kosha. Kosha means a treasury. And after that, we have Bala, Mitra. So these are some of the important aspects of the Saptanga theory. So both Manu and Kautilya emphasized on Saptanga theory, and they have indicated 7 elements to the state. So ancient political thought has provided the necessary requirements for the continuation of the state with 7 elements. So these 7 elements of state are called as the Saptanga theory. And the ancient political thought also discussed about the statecraft. The statecraft includes various forms of administration in which we have to discuss about the criminal justice administration, revenue administration, and we have the welfare administration, the law and order administration, the police administration, administration related to the local self-governments, and administrative relations with relation to interstate relations or international relations. So these are so many aspects that are forming part of the statecraft. So Indian political thought discussed about the statecraft. It discussed about the criminal administration, criminal justice administration, judicial administration, revenue administration, local self-government administration, interstate relations administration. So these are some of the aspects of the statecraft discussed in both Manusmriti and also in Kautilya's Arthasasthra. And ancient Indian political thought also discussed monarchy and republic. These are important, 2 important forms of government. One is monarchy and the other one is republic. A monarchy is one which is ruled by one man, who is also known as the king or the monarch. That's called as the monarchical form of government. And many states in the ancient period, in any part of the world, subscribed to the monarchical form of government. But there are also certain states in the ancient period that have supported the republican form of government, where the people themselves have become the rulers. For example, in the ancient Athens, in the ancient Greek city of Athens, Sparta, Crete, Credo, and various other city-states, where you find republican form of government in which the people formulate their laws by their own. So this is how there are 2 important forms of government in ancient Indian society. One is the monarchical form of government, the other one is the republican form of government. So Ancient Indian political thought, particularly Manu's political thought and Kautilya's political thought, it has discussed about both these forms of government, monarchy and republic. And lastly, it has also discussed about the law obedience of the people. How people become law obedient. When people do not obey the law, how king gets his legitimacy? How he forced the people to bring legitimacy to the system and be obedient to the system. So this is how law obedience is also another important concept that is discussed in ancient Indian political thought. So ancient Indian political thought on the whole discussed about Dharma, Rajadharma, Danda, Dandaniti, Saptanga theory, statecraft, monarchy and republic. These are the two important forms of government, and people's law obedient nature and people's obedience to the law. When people become disobedient, then how the king uses force or danda to force the people to be obedient. So law obedience is also discussed here. And in the process, these two treatises, particularly written by Manu and Kautilya, also discuss various aspects of legitimacy, the political legitimacy that the king draws from the people for his civilian rule. So this is how ancient political thought discussed about Dharma, Rajadharma, Danda, Dandaniti, Saptanga theory, statecraft, monarchy and republican form of government, law obedience and other aspects. Now let us discuss the significance of Manu and Kautilya. First, Manu wrote Manusmriti. This Manusmriti contains 2,685 verses, mostly written in Sanskrit language. So Manusmriti is a great treatise that deals with the social relations, the relations between citizen and the state, the relations between the ruler and the ruled, the relations between one state and the other state. So Manusmriti, which is divided into various chapters, is a great treatise with 2,685 verses. And it is written in Sanskrit. And secondly, Manusmriti is a compendium of several earlier authors. There are so many authors before Manu who have written so many smritis. So by making a compendium of all the smritis written by various saints, saints are called religious leaders, religious followers or religious devotees. So the saints have written so many books. So it's a compendium of several other earlier authors, Manusmriti. And it also discussed about Varna Dharma and Dharma. These are the two important concepts that are discussed in Manusmriti. It discussed about Varna Dharma and it also discussed about Dharma. Particularly discussed about the social relations, the system of marriage, the very institution of marriage, and what are the verses that are to be chanted during the times of marriage. So these are all part of Manusmriti. Manusmriti is basically a social philosophy, a social treatise, from which we can also draw some political ideas. And Manusmriti is compiled during 2200 BC. So it was a very old document of ancient Indian society. So it was compiled during 200 BC. And Manusmriti is also known as Manudharma Samhita. Manudharma Samhita means it is the book that provides the duties to the people. It defines all the duties to the people. It defines the duties according to their age, according to the gender, according to the community, according to the nature of ruler or ruled. So various other aspects. So that's why it is called as Manudharma Samhita. A Samhita means a compendium. Dharma means a rightful duty. So Manudharma Samhita. It contains all the duties of the people living in the state, and it clearly defines what are the rightful duties of various sections of people, including the king. So that's why it is also known as Manudharma Samhita. And Manusmriti has 12 chapters and discussed on social, economic, and political aspects. It discussed about human behavior. It discussed about the social interactions between various communities. It discussed about the institution of marriage. It discussed about the state, origin of state and functions of state. It discussed about the duties of the king, Rajadharma. It also discussed about the social aspects, economic aspects, and political aspects of the society. So, Manusmriti is a great treatise that is divided into 12 chapters and discuss various social, economic, and political aspects of ancient Indian society. And Kautilya wrote Arthashastra. In fact, Kautilya's book is Arthashastra, is also another important great treatise and belonging to 4th century BC. The great philosopher. In fact, he has written Arthashastra to explain about the object of human life. According to the Hindu social order, there are 4 noble objectives for any human being living on the earth. One is dharma, second one is artha, third one is kama, fourth one is moksha. So these are the 4 noble objectives for any person living on the earth. The first 3 objectives, dharma, artha, kama, can be attained during this birth. Based on the good deeds or bad deeds of a person, the moksha will be decided in the next birth. So that's the religious concept here. But Kautilya preferred to write about Dharma Shastra, Arthashastra, and Kama Shastra. So in the process of writing Arthashastra, he has explained what are the duties of the citizen, what are the duties of the ruler, what are the duties of the state, and what are the duties of different sections of people, different employees of the government, and different functionaries and various institutions which are inherent in part of a political system. So Kautilya's Arthashastra is a vivid description of the statecraft. It's in fact a manual for an administrator. So an administrator can have so many suggestions from Arthashastra for Kautilya. And Kautilya's Arthashastra is also a treatise on statecraft. It's a treatise on statecraft because it explained about the number of ministers that are required for a state and the election process or the selection process through which the appointment of ministers can be made, and also the qualifications of the ministers and various aspects of criminal justice administration, revenue administration, trade and commerce, taxation, local self-governments, administration related to interstate relations, and various other aspects. That's how it's a treatise on statecraft. It's a treatise on statecraft, and it also discussed various social, political, and economic issues. So Manu and Kautilya discussed various social issues, political issues, and economic issues. So this is how Manu is a great philosopher who have discussed about social ideas, political ideas, and economic ideas in his great work, Arthashastra. Manu and Kautilya. Now let us discuss the similarities between Kautilya and Manu. And Manu wrote Manusmriti, Kautilya wrote Arthashastra. And there are a lot of similarity between Manu and Kautilya. The first similarity is both of them have supported the Varna system. The chatur Varna system was supported both by Manu and also Kautilya. So these 2 great philosophers have supported the chatur Varna system based on Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. So these are the 4 Varnas, which are again subdivided into castes and subcastes. There are thousands of castes and subcastes in the Indian society. So these 2 philosophers have believed that it is a bounden duty of the king and mandatory on the part of the king to reinforce the Chaturvarna system in the Indian society. And the king is supposed to prevent the malpractices in the caste system. So that's how they have supported the Varna system. This is the first similarity between Manu and Kautilya. Manu's Manudharma Shastra and also Kautilya's Arthashastra both contain various verses relating to the support for the Varna system. This is one similarity. And second one is, both Manu and Kautilya have supported the Saptanga theory. The Saptanga theory, there are 7 elements to the state. Among the 7 elements of the state, the king, the minister, the Janapada, the Durga, the Kosha, Bala, Mitra. So these are the 7 elements of state. And according to Manu and Kautilya, every state needs to have 7 elements. The first one is king. Without a king, no state can survive. Arachika. That means anarchy. Anarchy prevails in the absence of king. That's why a king is a prerequisite for the survival of any state. And secondly, amacha. For all suggestions and advices in matters of administration, a king is to be helped by the ministers. So having ministers in a state is the second important quality of a state. And thirdly, Janapada. Janapada means, Jana means people, Pada means territory. A territory filled with people is called a Janapada. That's the third important quality. And fourth one is Durga or fort. Every state needs to have a fort. Fort to store surpluses, to store arms, to store valuables, to store the treasure. So you need to have a good fort. So that's why fort is another important aspect of the Saptanga theory. And fifth one is Kosha. Kosha means treasury. Every state needs to have a sound and vibrant revenue system. Without having sound and vibrant revenue system, the survival of the state is questionable. That's why for the survival and for the continuance of a state, every state needs to have a vibrant revenue system. So that revenue system that can provide various taxes from the people is called as Kosha. And Kosha in fact is a treasury. The treasury of the government or treasury of the state is called as Kosha. So without Kosha, the state cannot survive. Kosha is an important aspect of Saptanga theory. And sixth one is Bala. Bala means force. Every state needs to have force to control the internal anti-social elements within the territory, anti-national elements within the territory, law offenders, the violators of the enactments. So these people have to be punished. So for giving punishments, awarding punishments, a state needs to have Bala. And a state also needs to have Bala for protecting itself from foreign aggressions and external attacks and war. So Bala is required both for internal reasons and external reasons. That's why Saptanga theory indicates Bala is an important aspect. And some people call it as Danda. And lastly, the Saptanga theory as a 7th element discusses about Mitra or the allies to the state. A state needs to have some friends outside the state. Other neighboring states or any other state need to have some friendship with this state. So these 2 treatises, particularly Manu and Kautilya, Manusmriti and Kautilya's Arthashastra, discussed about the friendly relations among the states. So theory of state, particularly the Saptanga theory, is discussed and vividly supported in both the philosophies of Manu and Kautilya. And thirdly, both the philosophers have discussed about the statecraft. They have discussed the administration of the state. As part of the administration, in the public administration, every state needs to have the criminal justice administration, the revenue administration, the law and order administration, the police administration, the military administration, the local self-governing administration, and also the tax collecting administration, and administration related to interstate relations. So statecraft is also discussed very detailed manner both in Manusmriti and also in Kautilya's Arthashastra. And they have also suggested state aggrandisement. State aggrandisement means the extension of state. Both the philosophers have suggested the king to extend the borders of the state by conquering various other territories, maybe neighboring territories or any other territories. And if the king is victorious in the war, his legitimacy will be doubled. That's how people have obedience, and people have so many respect and discipline towards the king. If only kings become a hero by conquering all the other territories of the other states. So that's why they emphasized on state aggrandizement or extension of states or extension of the borders of the state by involving himself in the war or any other means through which the borders of the state are to be extended. The extension of borders of the state is called as state aggrandizement. And Manu and Kautilya also discussed about the functions of state. The state have various functions like welfare functions, police functions, functions related to tax administration, functions related to religion, religious practices like performing yajnas, yagas, and various other important aspects, and providing drinking water to the people and irrigation water to the agricultural fields, and maintaining friendly relations with the neighboring states. So these are all the functions of state according to Manu and Kautilya, and almost the same type of functions are discussed in Manusmriti and the Kautilya's Arthashastra. And they have also discussed about interstate relations, how a state maintains its friendly relations with the other states or the neighboring states. That's called as interstate relations. So both Manu and Kautilya in unison discussed about the functions of state, the interstate relations, statecraft, state aggrandizement, support for Varna system, theory of state, particularly the theory of Saptanga theory, statecraft, state aggrandizement, functions of state, interstate relations, and various other aspects. Now let's discuss what are the contrasts between Manu and Kautilya in their thought pattern. And though these two philosophers appear to be in unison in their ideas, there is also a sharp difference between Manu and Kautilya and their thinking pattern. The first important contrast comes from understanding their nature of state and state of nature. State of nature is the condition of people before the formation of state. When state was not formed, when there was no king, when there was no political system, there was no political authority or political institution as such, how people were living? People were living in a state of fear, in a state of insecurity, in a state of might is right. That's they call it as Atavik Nyaya or jungle justice or law of fishes, where the might is right. The big fish eats away the small fish. That's called as a Machanyaya. But on the origin of state, they said they differed. Manu believed that people approach the God, and God has sent them the king as a representative of God, according to Manu. And there is divine interference in the formation of the state, according to Manu. But Kautilya believed that there is no divine interference in the formation of the state. Kautilya believed when people are living in Machanyaya or law of jungle, and where the might is right is taking place, people sat together and elected another person. And they made a contract between a strong man in the society and the remaining people. The strong man in the society ultimately became the king and was respected. This is how the agreement between the ruler and the ruled is evolved, and this is called as the social contract. So according to Kautilya, On the basis of social contract, people have established the state. But Manu believed that there is a divine element, divine interference in the formation of the state. It's only the king is God sent according to Manu. But whereas Kautilya believed that the king is elected by people. King is a unanimous choice of the people. And the same view is also supported by Buddhism. And Gautama Buddha is also supporting Kautilya's views on the formation of state. He believes the king is elected by people and king is called as Mahajana Samhita, a consensual candidate of all the people in the society is called as the king, according to Gautama Buddha. And Buddha's views and Kautilya's views are in unison in matters of the formation of state or the origins of state. And both believes that state originated as a result of social contract between the ruled and the ruler. So this is one thing. And secondly, Manu and Kautilya differed in matters of rationality of thought. Manu's political philosophy is an admixture of religion and politics. He has also mentioned religious aspects in his philosophy. And he made the king accountable to the god. So he also made the people to be obedient to the state and king, and disobedience to the king and state amounts to sin, according to Manu. But Kautilya very rationally and reasonably constructed the Arthashastra, and he has very cleverly separated religion and politics. So in matters of rationality, Kautilya appears to be more rationalistic than Manu. Manu mixed both religion and politics. His philosophy and philosophical ideas are an admixture of religion and politics. Whereas Kautilya has very intelligently and cleverly separated religion and politics and put forth the rationality in matters of administration and statecraft. That's the difference between Manu and Kautilya in matters of statecraft. And likewise, Manu and Kautilya also had a difference. While Manu emphasized on morality and ethical orientation both to the king and people, Kautilya emphasized on moral indifference on the part of the king. Kautilya believed that the king need not be obedient to the people, need not be moral, need not be having the ethical orientation, particularly in matters of extension of war, extension of the borders of the state, or state aggrandisement, or in matters of conquest or annexations of other states. The king need not be moral, according to Kautilya. So Kautilya emphasized on moral indifference in matters of state aggrandisement, war, external aggression, conquest, annexations, and various other matters. Whereas Manu emphasized on morals and moral orientation, both for the people and the ruler. So this is another thing. And fourthly, in matters of interstate relations, Manu has mentioned friendly relations between the state and other states, whereas Kautilya emphasized on the political stability of the state, and he has also suggested the king to be a conqueror, Vijigishu, and he has evolved a mandala theory for the conquest of other neighboring states into the kingdom. So he emphasized on war, and he also emphasized on the system of spying to know the matters of the neighboring kings and other kings, to make external attacks on the neighboring kingdoms, and conquest and annexate the neighboring kingdoms and territories into the kingdom. So this is how there's also a difference in matters of interstate relations, whereas Manu suggested friendly relations and relations which are very cordial between the states. Kautilya discussed about spying system, mandala theory, and make the king a conqueror by making claims on state aggrandizement, wars, external attacks, external interference, and everything. And likewise, there are also differences of opinion on financial administration. In a financial administration also, whereas Manu discussed various taxes relating to the revenue system, Kautilya made it mandatory that all the sections of the people, irrespective of any exception, should pay tax to the government. Whether the people are poor, destitutes, or middle class or upper classes, merchant class, agricultural class, employees, soldiers, normal people. With disregard to all the statuses of the people, Kautilya suggested a mandatory caste system, a mandatory tax system, which makes the financial administration much more vibrant, the revenue system more effective. Whereas Manu gave some exception to certain sections of people from taxation. So these are some of the differences between Manu and Kautilya. Manu and Kautilya are two important political philosophers of ancient India. There is a lot of unison between the political thinking of Manu and Kautilya. But of course, there are also differences, particularly in matters of understanding the state of nature, Saptanga theory, and origin of state, whereas Manu believed that state is originated as a result of divine interference, and king is considered as the representative of God. Kautilya, on the other hand, believed that king is elected by the people, and king draw his legitimacy from the acceptance of the people. So this is how there is a lot of unison and also contrast between the thinking patterns of Manu and Kautilya. So by knowing these differences, we can clearly distinguish the political philosophies of Manu and Kautilya separately. Thank you, friends. Thank you very much.